kind of stuff, but it's a really, really helpful foil to introduce other kinds of concepts. So this idea using bots as foils is sort of motivated from that kind of tradition. Very good. Okay, first thing I want to do is talk about the some background that motivated this. This is not sort of like a brand new idea in terms of like having pulled this out of nowhere. I have been using this other kind of system for a long time. There's a course that I teach called Introduction to Symbolic Logic. It's a 200 level class. Lots of students wish it would actually be a 400 level class. But if you go to any other university in which they teach logic and they teach this Introduction to Symbolic Logic, it's always at the lower level because upper division courses typically require it. We don't, but nonetheless, that's the reason why we also keep it at the 700 level. So one of the biggest challenges in that kind of course, because I don't assume any kind of mathematical training from the students, but they feel like it's math, even though in some ways it's not, is the rate at which they need to get feedback in order to be able to learn the concepts in symbolic logic. So there's this textbook out there called Language, Proof, and Logic. I used it way back in 2004, at the time when it was a physical copy and had a CD that you had to put into a CD-ROM. That was version 1 of the text. They have since updated that to version 2. And in version 2, I think it started around 2012. I was really happy to find out when I came here and I was told to teach Introduction to Symbolic Logic that my predecessor had also been using exactly the same textbook for at least a decade. And I was like, awesome, that's exactly the textbook I want to use because the other ones, frankly, are just terrible for pedagogical reasons. Great for references, not for other reasons. So the newest version, they just now have a website, so students don't need to buy the physical copy if they don't want to, so it comes with a PDF. But the most important thing is the software has a bunch of apps where students can like take a little world where they make some sentences that will be true or false. And the worlds are really, really simple. It's about tetrahedra and cubes and so on. But the best part of this is in an exercise that they complete, they can submit that. And because it's logic, it's really easy to automate a lot of this stuff. And they can get feedback from what's called the grade grinder. And so if they get it correct, they just get this thumbs up. It'll be like zonk and some other cool terms. But if they're making some systematic mistakes, it will detect that and tell them that. It'll say things like, it looks like you're having difficulty translating these kinds of or statements, and give them a tip. And the student can then take that feedback, improve on that exercise, and they can do that as many times as they like until Friday at 5 p.m. No, actually I changed to 11:59 p.m. when they have to officially submit the assignment, and there's a little instructor 2 button that they click, and then the assignment actually goes to me, and I get the email report. And the email report is just, they got all these ones correct, but these ones they didn't get correct, you might need to look at those. It is an awesome tool for the students and for me. I could not assign the kinds of exercises I would want to do if I had to grade those every single week. It's just way too much. So the students benefit by getting this fast kind of feedback in learning. There's more exercises that I can assign to make sure that they're practicing those concepts. And I get to then focus on the quirks, the students who are like either really getting it and want to do some more advanced stuff, or students who are like, no, I need to think about how to meet that student in a different way. So I've been using that for a decade, 13 years now. For a course like Introduction to Ethics, there isn't that kind of logic. There isn't a tool like that for any kind of like dialogue-based course. A course where you need to have an argument in natural language with someone else. Discussion boards, I almost never sign, especially at the introductory level, because students don't yet know how to communicate. It's not a good sense of time. And especially now with LLMs and chatbots and these agentic systems, it's becoming increasingly easy to outsource that learning. And moreover, most of the customization that you do is about the characters. It's not really about the view, right? So I can tell a custom GPT to be like David Hume or to be like John Stuart Mill. And it'll sound like that, but eventually it'll say things that aren't consistent with John Stuart Mill's arguments. So I want to have some way to customize one of these things to actually stick to some kind of rubric when it's interacting with the student. And there's also this concept of context pollution that if you have long conversations, right, the chatbots tend to start to get confused and they start saying things that are a little bit wonkier or incorrect. So next iteration was like, okay, how would I solve that kind of problem? Well, if I had some kind of reference text and it had some kind of learning objective. So if you've ever used Notebook LM, you give it resources that you can then learn about. Of all the tools I recommend to allow students to use or to teach them to use, Notebook LM is the tool. If you don't put up the resource and you ask it a question, it will make it up. It'll say, I can't find the answer in the resources that you've given me. So I want to be able to have that kind of reference text, but I also need to have and want to have a learning objective. What is it exactly that I want the student to learn from this particular activity? And how do I measure that? What does a student have to say so that I know, okay, you got it. And you're going to do an exercise like that today. So I want to do something like, you are Bob, a student that has just read such and so. It's the kind of instruction I want to give to the bot. You are confused why the author would say this and that, whatever it is. You want the user to explain it to you. So the bot is meant to be a confused student that's also in the class and is asking the real student, hey, can you help me figure this out? The other feature, and this is the thing that we had to be clever about, is they also want to have a background moderator or an evaluator. A bot that also looks at how the conversation is going to keep things on track. Nothing like that existed. And I was like, is there someone around that would be willing to try to build this tool? The answer is yes. Zeth, the back, who helped me build this. Okay, so we want to be able to assess these progress towards some kind of learning objective and be able to steer what I'm going to call the foil bot, right? So what we're calling Mr. Bayes, who's the evaluator, can look at how the student responded, and then before the chatbot responds to the student's response, the evaluator can say, hey, the student seems to actually be confused about this. You should respond or help the student in up to this particular kind of way. So it's a way of making sure that the chatbot that's a foil won't just be giving away the answers. That would have to go through Mr. Bayes first. And if the student is like, hey, just tell me what the answer is so I can get this assignment done. Mr. Bayes would see that and be like, hey, foil bot or Bob, don't respond to that. You need to say, I am a digital peer in your class. I am confused. I need you to help me with this. Right? So we have that extra layer to prevent the kinds of challenges that standard chatbots have. Okay, next. Okay, if you've got a laptop, or if you don't have a laptop, sit beside someone who has a laptop. I want you to try this out. I'm going to give you an assignment. So if you go to mrbayes.ai/ignite26, I haven't given you anything in terms of the background before you log into this. So in an ordinary exercise like this, the student will have watched a video, done some reading, followed some other kinds of instructions. And so this is now an opportunity for them to test to see whether they've understood what the particular assignment was. In the example that you're going to get, I'm going to show you what the learning objective is first, but I want to see if you can explain the things to the bot that you need to explain. And the assignment here, anybody remember Groundhog Day? The foil bot is Phil Connors, who is desperate to leave this endless circular hell that he has been living in. And he is asking the student, give me some advice for how to get out. It won't work well on your phone. That's one thing I will say. We can try, but we've had issues with getting it to work on phones because the screen's too small, but give it a shot. So your job, you'll see when you log in there and you log into the assignment, we want to go to Desperate Phil. That's the name of the bot. Are you there, Desperate Bot? Did you see what Phil says? You want to read it out?
Hey there, I'm Bill. You're wondering what's up with me, right? Well, I'm in a bit of an impossible situation. I wake up every single day in the same bed, in the same town, and it's always February the 2nd. I'm stuck in this never-ending time loop, and nothing I do seems to matter because I just end up right back where I started. I've tried everything to break the cycle, indulging in every pleasure imaginable, committing crimes, even trying to end it all. But every morning I wake up to that damn song, I Got You, Baby, playing on the radio. It's like the universe is just messing with me at this point. I'm at my wit's end here. I'm desperate, and I honestly don't know what the point of any of this is. What am I supposed to do? Is there any way out of this loop, or am I just doomed to live the same day over and over again? That's it.
No, you all, oh good. So this is the awesome thing about, this is one of the cool things about generative AI. It doesn't give exactly the same thing. So what Paul just read might not be exactly what you just read. Assuming that you were on the Desperate Phil assignment, right? But the theme should be the same. It should be Phil who's might use other examples, right? But help Phil out. How does Phil break the cycle? And I'm hoping you do this from memory. Or you can try to tell ChatGPT and try to copy and paste that answer. And if you do that, it won't work. You can't copy and paste into that little window. You actually have to type something in there. So help out Phil. So can I play real quick?
Yes.
So here's one example. Be a nice person. Sorry, yep. Nice to people, yeah. Learn the piano. Why? How does helping some old lady change her flat tire help me? I'll still wake up tomorrow in this same bed. What's the connection between doing those things and getting me out of here? Oh, that's a clue. What's the connection between doing those things and getting me out? Is trying to nudge the student, wait, you need to say something that connects what Phil should be doing and why that should break the loop. Develop good habits. Oh, I didn't even spell it right. Let's do a little longer. Look, I'm stuck in a nightmare. I'm telling you about it. Can you please take this seriously? I need actual help, not jokes or nonsense. You're talking about being nice and developing good habits. So it's picking up on things in the conversation. It's incorporating that in what it's saying. But how does that connect to me breaking out of this loop? I've been through it 100 times. I've tried everything. Nothing has worked. So tell me, how does doing positive actions and building habits lead to a state of happiness that somehow gets me out of this? So the student who's paying attention to this is like, oh, wait a minute. Good habits are supposed to be something about like happiness, and something about happiness is supposed to help me break through this loop. So we're trying to nudge the student in the right kind of way without just giving away what the answer is.
A little bit of context. You mentioned this in class, of course. The instructors have talked about this already.
Yep.
The material is. So it's not like they're
nope. Pause. Yep. Let's go on the next slide. Yeah. So now here's what I want to do. If we can go back to the slides. In the movie, there's actually an implicit use of Aristotelian ethics. Aristotle said that the means of happiness is to do good things, not because those actions are good, but to do them in such a way that they become ingrained as a habit. Right? This is about virtue ethics. And in doing so, that being that kind of a good person, one that has good virtuous habits, that's what it means to be happy. That's what Aristotle wants to say. And what you might not remember is that's exactly what allowed Phil Connors to get out of the loop. He had to become a good person, and it had to be just automatic. He didn't have to do it he was supposed to be a good person, not for some other external reason, but purely because being a good person is what it is to be happy. And once he realized that, that's what broke him out of the loop. So there's this learning objective in the back that won't let Phil Connors ever be sort of happy, but if you do give an answer that connects these three components, where it's do nice things, help others, make that habitual, and when that becomes habitual, that's what it is to be happy, and that's what will break you out of the loop. And when a student says something of that, it doesn't have to be exact, but it connects those themes, that's when Phil Connors will say, awesome, thank you so much for getting me out of this, and then the discussion ends. So one thing I would suggest to do is we've cut these discussions into 3 rounds. This can be changed, but we've cut it off at 3 rounds because we don't want what we call this context pollution, right? If you have too many rounds, things start deviating. But I don't want that to be the end. I want the student to have another go at it. So they can just restart the conversation. So the idea for our students was 3 rounds, see if you can get Phil Connors to escape. If not, start again. Has anybody done it? Yeah.
Yeah, we're bumped out, but I was trying to tell it, stop trying to help yourself, think about other people, and that was not accepted as happiness is fulfillment and eventually doing things. What are the limitations in interpreting what people write? Why is stop thinking about yourself? I wanted to say stop being selfish, but I thought that was too mean.
Yeah.
Why is stop being selfish not direct to you?
Because that's not the learning objective. What we want to do is, we want, like in the lesson plans, right? What we've been talking to students is, it's not about being nice for others' sake, right? We're trying to teach them about this particular moral framework. And so that is the answer that they need to provide. And it turns out, if you watch the film again carefully, it's not about having done things for nice people. It really is not until Phil Connors does something for himself, which is to become a virtuous person, that the loop finally breaks. And so if you are just hacking away at Wikipedia and doing this, you're not going to make progress, right? You actually have to watch the video lectures. In fact, we typically tell students how, when they see this, how to be successful in this in a single round. Like the student who's really paid attention and internalized this and knows the stuff should be able to, with one thing, be done with it, which is kind of neat. I will also say, at one point, this is something that I learned for myself. I conflated the kinds of activities that give students as a learning tool and the things that give students to really be an evaluation. What I mean by that is, if you go take the LSAT, they don't let you retake it to, like, in that moment to get a better score, right? You have to wait until some other time. Your score is your score. And I realized that I often been assigning like quizzes or whatever, and if a student, they're like, oh, I'd like to get like a better score, can I retake it, whatever. What I find is that they start using the quiz itself to figure out what it is that they should be learning, and then just keep taking it until they get the score that they like. And so what we ended up doing was actually separating this out. So Mr. Bayes is not an evaluative tool that we use to decide what grade they should get. It's meant to help the student assess how well they are actually doing in terms of their own sort of concepts, and gives them a good indicator of how they would perform on a quiz. And then the quiz was a one-time thing, right? The score that you get on the quiz, that's the actual evaluation tool. The quiz is not for learning. That's what Mr. Bayes is for. But if you start doing well with Mr. Bayes, you're likely to do well on the quiz. So we separated those two things out. Now, of course, students have been habituated to read the points, right? We score the discussion according to like points 1, 2, and 3, and we tried to assure them that is not the grade that they would get for using this tool. It was about participation. Those numbers 1, 2, and 3 was just there for their own feedback on like how well we thought they did. It was super coarse-grained on purpose. And also, because some students will get slightly different questions, and you have this sort of like statistical like variance, it's unfair, right? Or at least there's a concern to be unfair. Whereas when we give them one quiz, all of them got exactly the same quiz. So we tried this out in the fall in this Intro to Ethics course. At about the halfway point, we decided, so I did this with Dr. Graham Hubbs, we put our two canvases together, and we had a lot of students. We had 150 in each of our sections. There's no way I would ever do an online class that big, especially if I had a discussion board and if I don't have TAs. But I was like, I think we can actually do that scale if I can use this kind of tool for this. And so at the halfway point, I was like, all right, we should do a check-in. I'm sure students won't be a big, well, I thought they'd be a big fan of it, but I wasn't sure, right? Especially with a lot of students who might not have been used to philosophy and this kind of discussion-based thing. I had no idea we just didn't know what to expect. So we did an anonymous survey, and it was voluntary, and we had 198 responses. If only I could get that kind of feedback in my teaching evaluations at the end of the semester. And then we asked them about like comparing it to discussion boards and other kinds of activities. Nearly 60% said that they thought Mr. Bayes was more effective in terms of their learning than discussion boards. 8% ended up saying the opposite. 17 said that they were about equal, and 17% had said that they had not used both. We needed to make sure that they had used both discussion boards and Mr. Bayes, which they were using in the class. And then when we asked them what they thought about what the most valuable part of the course was, and that included video lectures that did deep dives, big picture video lectures that Graham and I did together, sort of like collaboratively, the quizzes and the Mr. Bayes, the foil bots, a huge bit of like positive reinforcement that we got was that Mr. Bayes was like, not, that's where I look for now, was like highly frequently pointed out as one of the most valuable parts of the course. Some of them, thought this was really cool, it was innovative, and we also had a short unit on AI literacy to sort of like here's why Mr. Bayes is so different than what you get in your other sort of chatbots, right? So we use it as an opportunity to do some AI literacy as well. Okay, so that's the rough idea at our first implementation. If you have any questions, happy to take them. You also are welcome to check out mrbays.ai. Zeph helped develop, I should say help. Zeph developed it. I told him what the concept was that I wanted to make it work. So he'd be able to answer questions as well.
Would you like to show the transcript from one session where it was the Mr. Bayes report inside of it?
We've got 3 minutes, so won't be our time, but well, yeah, if you're interested in seeing what the transcript is like, as an instructor, you can go in and you can see the full transcript as well.
Everyone can actually do that. There's 3 other options. You can get some analytics. And if you click on one of the ones where it shows you can view your dialogue, you'll actually see what Mr. Bayes said.
Oh, yeah.
No one gets to see the students don't see this. And so the Mr. Bayes evaluation is buried in that transcript.
Yeah, so for those who are on Zoom, what we're just pointing out is on that dashboard, you can see that as students would see this, but as an instructor, you can also see what the reasoning was for how it made the assessment that it did along the way for Mr. Bayes. Casey, you had your hand up?
The 1, 2, 3, the basic score and give up approach. Like, are you looking at these transcripts? Like, how is that score generated? I missed that.
Oh yeah, so Mr. Bayes, like that's the evaluator, like looks and sees how that how the conversation is going.
So it's generated.
And it generates that score. And we pick 1, 2, 3. This is something that you can customize, but yeah.
I see this is the demo right here. I'm in the demo class, but so how many of these do you do? Like one a day? I mean
Oh, good. Yeah, I do. We do 3 of these kinds of chat activities each week. And so one of the fun things one of the challenges was actually to get Graham Hubbs to always be thinking about, I need you to write down 3 learning objectives when we think about what our lesson plan is this week, because I have to have those to design the bots in the first place. And so, yeah, we had about 3 on average each week.
So 45 total?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
But the ones that thought it wasn't useful, did they perform any differently from the other students in terms of their products like exams and such?
No, because it's anonymous.
Okay.
So we probably do not know. But we're trying to get to the next stage. We're going to try to do some studies to see, like, does this actually also help in, like learning in some other ways? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so, cool.
You have the students do this during class time, or you send them home to do it?
This is actually for an asynchronous online class. Which is why that was the other big challenge. I don't know what this will now look like. But to the extent that we have an online class, I wanted to do everything I possibly could to get the students to feel like they have to have some autonomy or agency in this.
Yeah.
And I think the future of online education asynchronously is doomed, but I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help it. And this is the best, what I could come up with. But yeah.
So, only other question is, like, if you go back in and look at the actual responses from the students, like, were anything like, they get poor scores because of like bad grammar or misspellings, or like, just, they can't write.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that.
Okay.
No, we were just,
No worries.
But one could also do that, but no, that's not what we were going for.
I understand.
Yeah. I'm happy to answer any other questions afterwards, or just shoot me an email. It's sort of like a still work in progress. So thanks everybody, really appreciate it.